Welcome to Learning Photography with Duck. Here's your host, Duck.
Alrighty. Welcome everybody once again to another edition of Learn Photography with Duck. As always, I am your host, Duck, and today is our Lightroom edition. Normally I take this time to say, hey, this is what we got coming up, but unfortunately I don't have anything coming up. We just recently did our multiplicity photo shoot. That was a lot of fun. I don't know if you guys got a chance to see the photos that I posted up on Facebook. Let's see. Also, this past Friday, I attended a workshop through the CTPPA. It was a full day workshop on senior portraiture. It was being hosted by CTPPA, and it featured two really fantastic photographers, Nathan Loker and Josh Hanna. If you ever get a chance to check out their work, it's very impressive stuff. They like that dark, moody, cinematic stuff, which it really appeals to me. And it's something that I don't get a chance to do too often. So it was nice to, get back into that kind of photography and learn a few tips and tricks. So anyway, since I don't have anything going, I'll turn it over to you guys and see if you guys got anything going on. Anybody?
I have nothing, but if you go to, I can't find, I was trying to find it for you. If you go to anyccc.org, you should be able to look for an online thing that they're doing in July. They used to do a weekend and nobody took over from Tom and Lisa. And I can't find it, unfortunately. Oh well.
NECCC.com.
.org.
Oh, .org.
Yes. I can't find it. Oh well. Let's try this.
Let's see.
If I find it, I'll put a link to this.
July events.
Yeah, I was looking under bulletins, spring. I can't find it. Here, let's try that, July 2024. Here we are. Yeah, okay. You know what? It is under July dash here. I am going to put it in the comments for our meeting in the chat, and this will go to everybody. And it is if you click on it, if you go to neccc.org and click July 2024 event, it is a virtual event on July 13th featuring two presenters, and you can see what it's all about.
Yeah, Jim Zuckerman and Seth Resnick.
Yes.
Yeah. What kind of, let's see, what kind of photography? Oh, wildlife photography. All right. Whoa, nice. And so what? They're just gonna kind of like talk about their travels and key images and things like that.
I would imagine so, yes. If you go way to the bottom, it says registration's now open and you can, but I would gather that they are going to tell what goes into how they take their pictures and what they do. Did you come to the North Haven Camera Club one that we had a wildlife photographer?
No.
I forget the guy's name. Roman. No, not Roman. Roman with Roman.
Oh, no, I think it was a woman.
We had a woman. We had a woman one year. We had I can't think of her name, but the year before that, we had somebody who did some travel photography, and I can't remember. Sorry, the mind is going.
That's all right. But anyway, thank you, Bill, for sharing that link with everybody. If anybody's interested, you know, Alan, you're a wildlife photographer. That might be right up your alley. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Thanks.
So
Depends on the kind, hey, Doug, depends on the kind of wildlife.
ah,
I didn't say anything. I would know. Do you want bears or do you want lions? That's what I was talking about.
oh,
Oh,
sure.
oh, come
Well,
on.
what kind of bears there, Bill?
Well, you can go up to the Farmington Valley and get a lot of bears.
Uh, all right. Okay. Let's see. Recently, we've talked about the big fiasco that Adobe is under because of their rather inappropriate wording on their legal terms, and some of their this kind of shady, kind of underhanded methods of dealing with information. We're not going to rehash any of that. You guys can make up your own decisions regarding that. But the move forward of implementing AI is here, you know, and unfortunately, part of the problem that's happening with creating a lot of confusion is the term AI is very broad. All right. Just think of it this way. If somebody says, I am a photographer, if they take a pictures with some kind of camera, it doesn't matter what kind of camera, it could be a film camera, a cell phone camera, or a fancy DSLR. Yes, technically they are a photographer. They are not a professional photographer. They are not a commercial photographer per se. You know, they are a photographer. And we get a lot of confusion when people think, oh, you're a photographer. You know, do you do weddings? No, I just take pictures for myself and my family and kids, you know? So the term AI is as vague as saying photographer. The problem also comes with the fact that it's new technology that's coming around that is also getting a lot of misappropriation, I guess would probably be the word. A misappropriation of the term AI. AI stands for artificial intelligence. But a lot of the things that are being developed is not really artificial intelligence. So, for example, the generative image AI, there's no artificial intelligence involved. It's just algorithms and mishmashing of pixels. The same with ChatGPT. It is not artificial intelligence. It is a language model that is trained on a broad spectrum of documents, text documents, in order to resemble some form of what we think is artificial intelligence. But the underlying architecture is not. So AI is being used in the wrong way, and it's starting to get a bad rap. But I'm sure somewhere along the line we'll sort it out. Okay. But within some of the software that we use, you know, AI is being tossed around because it's an easy, you know, 2 letters to say and represent something that we are not doing. The computer is doing for us, and the computer's doing it for us in a very smart way. So we kind of attribute it to that AI moniker. All right. So when we actually look at what types of tools, AI tools, we have available to us, they fall into one of 2 categories. One, AI tools that help us speed up a process that we would normally do manually. For example, subject-aware selections. It used to be if you wanted to select a subject, you would have to take the lasso tool or the pen tool or some kind of selection tool and, trace around a subject in order to make a selection. But now with the visual training that has been done by Adobe, the visual engine can recognize shapes that are considered people. All right. So now whenever it encounters a person in a photograph, it recognizes the silhouette, it recognizes that shape, and then can very easily make that selection for us. And we assign it the term AI, artificial intelligence, when it really isn't. It's just a bunch of, algorithms that are looking for very specific shapes within the photograph. There's absolutely no intelligence involved with it whatsoever. Okay. The same thing goes with generative AI. These are visual models that have been trained on photographs and other pieces of art from a vast array of sources. There's nothing intelligent about it. As a matter of fact, if there was anything intelligent about it, you would know that a human doesn't have 6 fingers that are coming out of joints that are like weirdly placed, But they are tools to help us facilitate the workflow process. All right, and to that end, Adobe has been making a great effort in trying to give us these tools to make our job as a photo retoucher a lot easier. And when it started introducing some of these AI tools, which we've covered, the subject selection and things like that. They just recently added the subject or the object removal tool, where it kind of recognizes what it is that you're wanting to remove, and will replace it with something based on your image to hide what it is you're trying to replace. Okay, so we've covered, we've covered all that. What we haven't covered is how these tools are being integrated in some of the presets. Now, we've covered presets in the past, how to use presets and specifically how to make your own. All right, because as you understand, I'm a big proponent of making your own presets, because that allows you to understand what the preset is for, and therefore when to use it. Unlike getting, either free presets off the internet, using the presets that come with Lightroom, or, if you're, I'm sorry to say, foolish enough to buy presets, the problem is you have no clue what those things do. So therefore, you really don't know when to use them. So what ends up happening is you're wasting a lot of time clicking through all the presets trying to figure out, well, what does this one do? What does this one do? What does this one do? Okay. Well, recently, as a matter of fact, in the latest update, Adobe has added another type of preset. Well, they added them recently, but they just added another one. And these are what they're calling adaptive presets. Okay, so adaptive presets are utilizing some of the AI tools that are built into Adobe Lightroom. So for example, when you go to the mask tool, if you recall, you can click on an auto mask that will identify a subject. All right, and if it's a person, it will give you a whole list of different ways you can break up that mask. Facial skin, body skin, the eyes, the pupils, eyebrows, facial hair, the whole 9 yards. teeth, if teeth are showing, okay? And it will build a smart mask based on those selections. Well, we can incorporate that into a preset where it will apply one of these smart masks in order to facilitate your editing process using these smart masks, okay? Now, why is this kind of important for us? Well, if you understand the way Lightroom operates, is that if you set, for example, let's say we want to change the exposure on something, all right? Actually, let me go over to the desktop here, all right? Oh, let me share my screen too. Share screen, boom, boom, share. Okay. All right, so let's go to the develop tool. I'm just gonna pick a random image, okay? So if I wanted to change the exposure, all right, I have this nice little exposure slider that allows me to modify my exposure, okay? And if we look here, there is a number, all right, so let me reset that, all right? So the base neutral number is 0, 0, all right? And of course, we can darken it up to about 5 stops. So here you see -5. And then the other way, we can overexpose it by about 5 stops, okay? The problem with this, there's a couple of problems. One, it's based on your initial exposure, all right? So let's say you have a series of 6 images, and you took all 6 images, you know, different varieties, different compositions, different, you know, subjects, all pretty much in the same light, okay? But what you did is in between one frame and the other, you kind of adjusted your exposure. You made some a little bit darker, some a little bit lighter, all right? So now when you have all 6 images open, none of them share the same, visually the same exposure value, okay? So now what happens is you look at one image and it says, oh, this image needs to be darkened, all right? But, you know, all 6 were taken at about the same time. I want to do a batch process. I'm going to select all 6, and then using that first image as my guide, I'm going to reduce it by a stop. Well, what that's going to do is each consecutive image is going to get darker by a stop. So if I have, for example, here's 5 images here, okay? Now, the exposures are pretty close, all right? But if I were to just say, I'm going to darken this up by a stop, it's going to apply that to all of them, okay? And you can see, did it apply to all of them? Let's make it a little bit.
I don't think so.
Oh, it did it to the first one. Oh, there we go. That's why I didn't auto sync it. Okay. It helps if auto sync is on. All right. So I'm going to go down. I'm going to make the adjustment very noticeable, okay? So you can see that I've darkened all of them, but you know, maybe the second one, because it's a little bit brighter than all the others, now still doesn't match. And what I'm trying to do is in my editing is I'm trying to make them all match. So now I have to go in and I need to individually tweak that one. Okay. Now, this is okay. All right. This is something we're used to. We have to make these little corrections as our workflow goes through. But imagine if you build a preset that you want it to do a very specific edit to your image. All right. So now what happens is if the preset says reduce the exposure by 2 stops, it doesn't matter what you have done to this image. Let's say in order to get this image to look right, I need to drop it by, I don't know. Oops, what did I do? Wrong slider. Okay. Let's say I need to drop it by 2 more stops. Okay. And for this, I'm going to add a few little local adjustments using masks. So I want that background nice and dark. I want the periphery nice and dark. Okay. And then I click on a preset that says that preset should be at -2. Okay. Or actually it is -2. Let's say the preset's at -1. Now all of a sudden it's going to reset all the work that I did to a setting that I did not want. Okay. So that is one of the biggest problems with using presets in Lightroom. It is not, it is dependent on very specific numbers. So whatever you build the preset, whatever numbers you build into the preset, that's the numbers that are going to be applied. Okay. Now, in order to make presets a little bit more useful, I guess somebody at Adobe was pretty smart and said, you know what? Why don't we add a slider that modifies the amount of the effect of the preset to be able to control, you know, the intensity of that preset. All right, so if I have a preset that brings my exposure down 1 stop, I now have a slider here, a preset slider. All right, I haven't applied anything yet, that allows me to go 100% up and 100% down. So I can intensify whatever the preset does. I can intensify it, in essence doubling it, or I can reduce it. So for example, a preset that drops my exposure down 1 stop, if I move the slider up to 100 plus 100, it's going to drop the exposure down 2 stops, because in essence it's doubling what was applied. Okay. Or I can take it the other way and I can reduce it 100%, all right, which will then bring it back to 0, as if I didn't put any exposure compensation on that. All right. Or anything in between. I can bring it down to 25. I can bring it down to 50. All right. And it's going to adjust that preset accordingly. All right. And it's going to move all whatever sliders you have preset for that. It's going to move it by that percentage, not a numerical factor in sense of, you know, it's going to add 15. It's going to remove 10. No, it's going to add a percentage of the effect all the way up to 100% or down 100%. Okay. So that's something that we can use to modify our preset as we're working on it. The only problem is that slider is only available to the last preset that was used. And once you use a new preset, the previous preset no longer has access to that slider. All right, at that point, if you need to make modifications, you actually have to go into the settings and manipulate the settings at that point. Okay, so we're starting to get there, I think. Maybe eventually Adobe will do something where presets become cumulative. So that way, instead of having 5 presets that will change my exposure to +1, +2, +3, +4, and +5, okay, I can have just one that says +1, and then if I click it again, it'll add another +1, and if I click it again, it'll add another +1 for a total of +3. We're not there yet, but we can hope. Okay, so I go over this because I want you to refresh your memory about how presets work, all right, and how we can utilize them. All right, so now one of the ways we can kind of get away from resetting certain presets is if we have global presets. All right, and a global preset is going to be something that applies across the entire image. And then we have local presets, and those local presets utilize a mask. Okay, so now let me just pull this one up. Okay, here I have a photo of a person. Okay, and if I decide I was going to use, for example, a circular, a radial gradient, okay, and which is one of my favorites. It is still one of my go-to masks for editing within Lightroom. Okay, but now we have the ability to say, hey, I want to select the subject, okay? And the AI is going to recognize that there's a person there, and it's going to make a nice selection for me, okay? But we're not there yet, all right? We're talking old school right now. So here it is. I make a nice circular gradient that is going to affect this particular person. All right, so maybe I want to punch up the the highlights on him, and maybe bring down the shadows a little bit, just to introduce a little bit more contrast without affecting my midtones. Okay, so make him pop a little bit more from the background. So before, after, before, after. So very subtle. Okay. And I say, you know what? I like that look. I want to be able to apply that preset on anybody who is standing against a dark background. All right? Because what that does is it makes them pop out a little bit more from the background. Okay? So I'm going to create a preset. I'm going to name it, dark background subject pop. Okay? Doesn't matter. Okay, so now, all right, I'm just gonna I'm gonna back that out. Now I have this guy here, all right, and I want to apply that mask. All right, so what it's going to do is it's going to come to the mask, and it's going to create a mask where that guy was standing, all right, and it's going to create a little bit of a highlight pop and a little bit of a shadow drop. Okay, and we can see that It did a little bit, but you know what? It's in the wrong position and the wrong size for this image. Okay. As a matter of fact, it's pretty much the wrong preset for this image, because now we have more of a, well, technically he's dark, he's light against a dark background, but the background isn't completely dark. There are patches of lightness above it, and the highlights are not closer to midtones as in the previous. Okay, so here's something where once we apply it, we can, you know, adjust it with the slider, but it doesn't change the fact that my mask is in the wrong position. Okay. So one of the things that we are able to do now, because we have object awareness, all right, so let me remove this mask. Okay, I can say, all right, I want you to create a mask based on the subject. All right, and now all I did was say, you know, create a mask in the subject, and Lightroom did the rest. And as you can see, let me show the overlay. It did a really, really good job. All right, if you updated Lightroom to the latest version, all right, so the latest update just came out, they actually improved on the object selection mask. They've made it better. Okay, so now I can take this and I can save this as a preset. Okay, and I can say, okay, I want, let's do something really crazy. I want to take it, I want to make the subject blue. Okay, all right, so now I come out of there. I go over to my presets, the plus symbol, okay, and I say create preset. I'm just going to put it into the user's preset, and it says blue subject. Okay, and what I want to do is I want to use the mask. Okay, and what did we do? Actually, just a mask, because that'll apply everything that's within that mask. Okay, all right, now I'm shortcutting it here. Okay, because I would never ever make a preset with that name. Why? Because that's the generic name that Lightroom applies to it. Okay, I would change the name of the mask, all right, and I would change the name of the subject select mask as well, all right, to something that makes better sense. Okay, why? Because if I have another preset that says, oh, it's going to name the mask mask 1, it's going to say, hey, you know, there's already a mask 1. What do you want me to do? You want me to overwrite it? All right, and then you run into problems. Okay, but we're using this as an example. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and create. All right, now I'm going to pull up this one again. And now all I have to do is I come over to my user's preset. All right, and we have my blue subject. And all I got to do is click on that. And here's my mask. All right, and you can see that my mask selected the person perfectly. Okay, and it applied a -100 temperature. Okay, which is what the preset's supposed to do. Okay, so now I don't have to worry about what kind of subject is in my image. I know that because it's using the smart masking tool, it's going to look for a subject, it's going to select that subject, and then it's going to apply the effect. Now, unfortunately, it's not completely foolproof. If we look closely here, you can see that it left a section of the shoulder strap out because why? Unfortunately, the shoulder strap is very, very similar in tone and color to the background. So it probably assumed this was part of the background. Okay. So at this point, we just simply say add. I'm going to take a brush and I'm going to go ahead and add to that. And we are good to go. Okay. So minor tweak, but you can see how fast that is in relation to, you know, doing multiple steps. Okay. So why do I say this? All right. I bring this up, and let me delete this. I bring this up because with the latest release, Adobe has added another adaptive preset based on their latest tool, which is the lens blur. All right. Remember we went over that? The lens blur. So they created a bunch of presets to go along with that new tool. Okay. So because we haven't covered any of the previous adaptive presets, I figured what I will do today is talk a little bit about it, give you my view on them, and kind of some warnings about their use. Okay. Now, obviously, I don't need to tell you that I'm not a big proponent of presets that you don't build, but these presets, the adaptive ones, they're actually fairly decent. All right. Are they what you will ultimately want to use? Probably not, because anything that comes pre-built by Adobe are going to be generic. All right. They're going to be very generic. And because they're very generic, they may not fully match your style or your way of editing. However, it's going to give you a starting point, and that's kind of what I want to cover with you today. So I made a few image selections. Okay. This is the husband of, I did a photo walk for Milford Photo a while back, and this is the husband of one of the women that was on the photo walk. And I gave her some pointers on taking portraits, and he ended up in my camera roll. So we're going to use him as our subject for this one. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go down the line. All right. So actually, let me back it up just a little bit. So in the presets tab, okay, you should have a bunch of presets that come preloaded with Lightroom. If for some reason you do not see them, or like me, if you don't want to see them, what you'll do is you'll come up to the top where it says presets, and there's a little plus symbol with a little down arrow. If you just click on that, it gives you the ability to create, import, and more importantly, what we're going to be doing is managing our presets. All right. So if we click on manage presets, you're going to get this dialog box with all the presets that are installed on your system, whether they're visible or not. They're all going to be, anything that is installed is going to be seen here. If there is a blue check mark, it means it's going to be available in this list here. Okay. Everything here is here. Okay. If it does not have a check mark, it will not be visible here. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is if they're not available, make sure your adaptive portrait, adaptive sky, adaptive subject, and adaptive blur background are checked, because those are the ones we are going to go over today. All right. Okay. Any questions so far? Everybody with me? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Now, the adaptive portrait, sky subject, and blur background, these are folders. Okay, so if we look, there's a little arrow right next to it. If we click on the arrow, it's going to expand that folder, and all the presets are going to be there. All right, I'm going to close that for a second, because what I want to do is I want to show you how we would normally do this with, let's say, a regular preset. Okay. So regular presets are anything that does not use any kind of AI whatsoever. There's no, the program is not going to make any selections, or I'm sorry, it's not going to make any smart selections for you. It's just going to utilize the typical tools, radial gradients, linear gradients, things like that. Okay. As a matter of fact, I don't think it even uses a brush, because brush is very specific. Okay. All right. Now, the way you can use these is if you hover over any of these, it temporarily applies the effect so you can see it in real time what that effect is doing. All right. And if you notice, all right, and one of the reasons why I hate this is because they have very descriptive names that tell you exactly what it's going to do. Right. All right. Portraits, medium skin, just labeled PM 01, 02, 03, 04. And it doesn't tell you anything about what that preset does. Okay, this is why I prefer building my own, because I can assign it a real world label that makes sense. All right, but it doesn't matter. If you got half an hour to kill, we can just go hover over one. Okay, hover, don't click, because if you click, it's going to apply the preset. Okay, we hover over one, hover over two, hover over three, hover over four, hover over five. All right. And at this time, I forgot what number one looks like. Number six, number seven. All right. And then it's up to you to find the one that closest comes to the way you want to edit that particular image. Maybe. Unfortunately, presets are not a one-click solve all your problem solution. You're not going to fully edit an image with a single preset. More often than not, a good edit will incorporate several presets that do several things and target different parts of the image. All right. Again, this is another reason why I like building my own presets, because here I don't really know what these are targeting. I can kind of sort of guess. Well, it's doing something with exposure. All right. It's definitely bringing the brights down. All right. And it's actually doing something with the midtones. All right. And it's kind of doing a little bit with saturation, because it's really making some of these colors pop. Okay. But other than guessing, I really don't know. Okay. So now we can scroll through all of these. All right. And it says, oh no, I don't want that one. That one looks like it turns into a black and white with no contrast. This is black. Look at, look at all those, colors. Very bright. Actually, I don't see much difference between this one and this one. Oh, okay. All right. So it can be very frustrating. All right. I'm just going to go with the first one just to be. All right. So I said, okay, well, I kind of like it the way it kind of darkened down. Now, all right, I says, okay, well, there's a few other things. Now the face is looking a little bit too dark. Maybe I want to brighten that up. So now what I got to do is I got it over here, and it says, well, what did it do? Okay. Well, it dropped the temperature and it reduced the texture, but it didn't do anything to my exposure in this part in the basics tab. All right. So where did it do it? All right. Well, one way we can one way we can tell is we can look at these little eyeball symbols. Anytime a setting is modified in a tab, it's going to light up those little eyeball symbols. So we can see that it lit it up in the basics because obviously it changed the color temperature and it changed the texture. Okay. It hit something in tone curve. That's probably where we get the exposure drop. Color mix. That's probably where we get a little bit of the saturation. Nothing in color grade. Probably a little sharpening in the detail. Definitely some lens correction. That's something I always apply anyway. All right. And something in the effects. Maybe it did a little bit of a vignette. Who knows? All right. So now if I want to know, I have to go up and open these. And sure enough, there it is. It added a little bit of a slight S curve. So it punched the highlights just a touch, darkened the shadows, but it also, and it looked like it dropped the parametric curve. The darks, it darkened them by about 9 points. Okay, so it changed the parametric curve and it changed the linear curve. Okay. And we just go down the line. Okay. Oh, it dropped the orange saturation and the yellow saturation, probably to control a little bit of skin. All right. Why? Because this is a portrait retouching preset. So obviously the skin tones are going to be important. And medium skin, obviously anybody that has a darker skin tone other than us pasty white Caucasians. All right, which is why I picked it for this gentleman. Okay, so what did it do? It actually did something I probably would do myself. Reduce the intensity of the orange and yellow pigment that is very prevalent in this type of skin tone. Okay, detail, what did it do? Yep, added some sharpening. And applied a little bit of denoise. Okay. Lens correction, obviously, that, I always do. And then, of course, the effect, what did it do? Yep, there it is. Our vignette. Okay? So now we understand the composition of our preset. Okay? Now, here's where it gets into a problem. All right, this particular preset adjusted our colors. All right, it did what it was designed to do, was modify the colors of the skin tone. All right, but along with that, it also modified other colors because, after all, it is a global preset, so it's going to apply it to everything. So now, if I want to add a color grade, okay, if I use any of these settings that have been used by this particular preset, all right, it's going to negate anything that was done by this particular preset. So if I find another preset that, let's see, all right, let's go into one of these seasons. We'll go into the spring season here, okay? So let's keep in mind what it did. It reduced my oranges and my yellows in the saturation part of the color mixer, okay? So now I go over here and I said, all right, oh, here's one. Yeah, no, that's kind of garish, isn't it? All right, here's one, nice and bright. All right, I apply that. Look what it did. It completely destroyed everything that was done previously. All right, the orange shifted back a little bit. The yellows, it brought it back to 0. Okay. Where I might want a little less yellow in this gentleman's skin tone. Okay. But if I apply it here, it's going to apply it globally. All right. So now I might want to think to myself, you know what? I'm going to do this in a mask in order to correct the skin tone. Okay. See where I'm going with this? All right. This is where some of the adaptive presets come into play, because the adaptive presets are now using masks that are AI generated, all right, based on the subject. And now we can target very specific areas of a portrait without affecting anything else. Okay, so let's reset this.
Duck,
Yeah.
before you get on to that, when you're back to your choosing the presets there, just from the standard ones.
Mm-hmm.
So when you went from PM01 to whatever you picked, SP or whatever, so when you're doing that type of activity, the replacement of the settings, it's complete. There's a complete overlayment. None of the previous settings from before are left behind. Okay.
Well, no, not necessarily. All right. So if let's say I create a preset that reduces the exposure slide. All right, here, let me go. Okay.
My question, because I do this sometimes, I go through these provided presets as a launch point. You know, I'll start with one of those and do what you just did, but I wanted to make sure that, because sometimes I click on one and then I click on another and I go, oh, do I need to go back and reset and start over? Just what I wasn't sure how that worked.
Yes, that is the problem. That is probably the most outrageous problem of these presets that really irked me really early on, and why I refuse to use them. All right, is because it will undo any work that you have done. All right, so you're getting, your image looking the way you want. All right, and you like the way a preset looks, but only, let's say, only in the background. You don't want to touch the subject. But guess what? Because a preset is a global preset, it's going to change everything. All right. Well, no, not everything. Okay. So this is the way it works. All right. I want to darken my image. Okay. I want to open up my shadows, increase my highlights, I'm doing crazy stuff to this image, right? And I get the image looking the way I want. Okay. And now I go, all right. So what I want you to do is I want you to take a look at all of these. Okay. All right. Now, we know what PM1 does. Okay. What I want you to do is pay attention in particular. What was it that PM1 changed? It changed the texture, right?
Orange. Yeah.
And what else did it change?
It messed around with the orange, as I remember, was one of the
Yeah,
colors.
no, but in this particular panel,
Oh,
it changed like two things. I can't remember what it was. All right. Okay, but I know one of them was texture. Okay. So watch when I go here and I apply it. Okay. Look what it does. It reset my clarity. It reset my texture. It reset my blacks. It reset my whites. Okay. It did not touch the highlights or shadows. It did not touch the exposure. Okay. So this tells me that whoever built this really screwed up. All right. Because the original, or I'm sorry, the preset by itself is only supposed to change two things. Okay. But in actuality, it changed four things. Or no, actually, it changed five things because it reset clarity. All right. So anything that has a 0 value, it's going to reset to that 0 value. Okay. So if you remember, I moved the whites and I moved the blacks. I gave it a different value, but for some reason, this preset says, no, no, no. Those two should be 0. Okay. Typically, the way I build my presets is if a slider did not get moved from its 0 position, I do not record that 0 position. Okay. Unless the purpose is to reset for that 0 position. You know what I mean? Make sense? Okay. So all I want to do is with my presets, I want to record whatever I want changed to give a specific look. All right. So what this does is it kind of mitigates the amount of damage that a preset will do. So if I have a preset that changes 3 sliders, all right.
yeah.
All right, so let's say I have a preset that changes the exposure, changes my highlights, and changes my shadows. Those are the 3 things that I want this preset to change. And I'm going to change it to a very specific point for a very specific look. All right, and I'm going to name that preset so that when I look at the name, it's going to say, oh, this is for this type of photo. Okay. Now, as I'm working, let's say this particular image, all right, I know that there's a problem with my white and black point. Okay. There's a problem with the white and black point, and I want to correct that before I apply that preset. Okay. I don't want that black and white point changed because I purposely put it to those 2 positions for that one image. So now when I click on my preset, if I've built it properly, it's not going to change it. Okay. So here in this case, you can see that it actually reset. Oops. It reset those 2 points back to 0. Okay. All right, here I'm going to move. I'm going to really move all of these all over the place. This is going to look horrendous. Okay. All right. What I'm doing, I want you to see, I'm leaving this whole area blank. Okay. Now I apply that PM1. Okay. Look what it did. Okay. It pretty much moved all of these. Okay. which I moved one of those, didn't I? Okay. So this is the problem that you can come across, all right, with some of these presets. All right. So a word of advice is, well, one, get to know your presets. All right. If you find a preset that you like, that you want to incorporate into your workflow, really study it, take it apart, look at what gets changed. So the way you do that, you just reset. All right, let me bring that back to portrait. Reset everything, okay? And if you'll see, all of these eyeballs are blank. They're unchecked, okay? You say, okay, I like this preset. I check it, all right? And here it is. All of a sudden, this one, this one, this one, and this one are checked. Now you know where to look, okay? And then you can see, okay, well, oh, let's see. Did it reset? Oh, no, it just changes one. It changes the texture, all right? So in this panel, it just changes that, as far as we know. All right. From playing around, we figured out that it does other things. Okay. Okay. So you might want to say, okay, I see that it changes the texture. Okay. So now you can do, make your image look really gross. All right. Because these slider positions don't matter. They don't matter. Okay. Come on. All right. And now when you press that again, you can see exactly what changed. Oh, and it moved all of these. It moved all of those. Okay. But you can see only one is actually off of 0. All right. And that's the texture. Okay. So that tells me there's a problem with this preset. So I might want to rebuild it. Okay. I'll rebuild it. All right. So how can we rebuild it? Okay. We reset it. We bring our texture to where we want. Let's say it was -10. Okay. And it does everything else. All right. We're just going to keep it simple. It says, okay, we want this. All right, you go to the preset, you hover over it, and then you right click. Oh, no, I'm sorry. What do we want to do? We want, come on. Oh, we can't edit these? All right, that's weird. Wait a minute. Oh, we can't edit these. Aha. That's interesting. I found something new.
I would think your workflow would be what you would just say press PM1 and then make the other changes that you want after that and then save that as your own preset.
Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, we cannot modify the ones that come with Lightroom. Did not know that. See, that's because I don't use them. Yeah, so now what you would do is you would tweak it to the way you want it. All right. We'll go up, create preset. Okay. And now we know, well, what did it change? Well, it changed our texture. Okay. Well, we also know that it changed our white point and our black point, brought it back to 0. It took our clarity, our dehaze, our vibrance, and our saturation back to 0. I don't want those going back to 0 because if I have a separate preset that maybe does some color variations for me, that does deal with my vibrance and my saturation, I don't want those affected by this preset. Okay. I don't want to undo work that's done by another preset. Okay. So I'm only going to select the settings that matter for the preset that I want to save. I'm going to, instead of giving it PM01 name, I'm going to give it a real world name. All right. You might say, you know what? I'm going to keep the PM01, but I'm going to add darken environment. Okay. So I can now give it something that makes sense to me. All right. And then I would hit create and it will save this. All right. I'm not going to create. I don't want to be adding stuff here. Okay. So that's how I would do it. Okay. Now, as you start building them, all right, what I would suggest is that you build them with a purpose. All right. So they are purpose-driven presets. Okay. And what does that mean? Well, if you look here, I have a folder that's called Dodge and Burn. Okay. And in this Dodge and Burn, I have a bunch of presets that's all they do. That's all they do. They do a little bit of dodging and burning. Okay. And because this folder contains both dodging and burning presets, all right, I precede them with what do they do? Okay. Well, the top is all my burn presets, and then below that are all my dodge presets. And then following that is a quick descriptor of what it does. Okay. Top, bottom, dehaze punch, sky texture, strobe left, strobe right. All right. These that are called strobes, strobe left, strobe right, strobe top. Okay. I use these all the time to very quickly edit my event photos. All right. Because when I do events, I use on-camera flash. My flash is right above my camera. Okay. So in order to avoid that flat look, I will point my flash in one direction or another. So what often happens is I will have a hot spot either to the left or to the right, and it's usually up above. Okay. And if they have a very low light colored ceiling, that ceiling gets lit up pretty well. All right. So these are very purposely built presets for my event photos in order to neutralize what the flash is doing, because everything below that looks great. Okay. So now as I create these, all right, I know that none of these have anything to do with color. So I can apply a color preset and know that it's not going to affect anything with these presets and vice versa. All right. As a matter of fact, all of these are built with a mask. Okay. So none of these are global presets. Okay. None of them are global. All right. Any questions so far? Everybody with me about the old traditional way of building presets? Okay. All right. But like I said, now with the advent of smart masks, okay, we have are objects. Okay, so it'll recognize an object, and it will recognize people. All right, and the people one is the one with all the power, because when we click on people, we have a broad range of masks we can select from based on particular parts of the person. Okay, and like I said, we covered it before. We can target the skin on the face. We can target the skin on the body, you know, arms, legs, torso, neck, things like that. Eyebrows, the sclera of the eye, which is the white of the eye. All right. For close-up photos, all right, we can target the iris and the pupil in order to brighten up the eyes, or, you know, enhance the colors a little bit. Lips, all right, if they're smiling with teeth showing, we can whiten their teeth. We can add or remove texture on the hair. All right, we can enhance the highlights on hair. We can do all kinds of stuff. If they have facial hair, it will recognize that, obviously for the guys, not the girls. Right, and if they're wearing clothing, it will select the clothing. It'll select all the clothing. It doesn't differentiate between a top and a bottom, shirt, pants, coats. It doesn't differentiate that. All right, who knows? Maybe down the road it'll do that, but for now, anything that's clothing, it'll select it. Okay, so now we can really fine tune how we create these adaptive presets. Okay, as a matter of fact, let me go ahead and cancel out of that. Okay, now as I mentioned, if you hover over any given preset, it's going to give you a preview in the center. It's going to apply whatever that preset is, and it's going to show it to you. Okay, and it does it fairly quickly. If you have a fast computer, it's going to do it really quickly. There's a slight delay, you'll notice, but relatively quickly. Now, if you are using one of the adaptive presets, guess what? It has to apply that AI selection in the background temporarily, because it's not actually building the finished mask, but it has to build the mask. Okay, it has to recognize what the subject is. It's got to build the mask appropriately, and then it has to apply the whatever settings are built into that preset in order for you to see what the preset does. So it basically has to go through the whole entire process. All right, but because we're hovering it, it's only temporary. All right, so now we might have to wait a little bit in order to see it. Okay, which poses a particular problem. All right, oh, and it's starting to slow up my machine. You can see, you know, can you see that I'm kind of stuttering a little bit? It's coming across on my machine. I'm definitely stuttering. Yes, no, maybe? Feedback, guys? Did I lose you? Uh-oh.
We're here.
I'm still here.
Oh,
We're
okay.
here.
All right. Sorry. Yeah, these adaptive things are disrupting my stream. Okay. But you'll notice that it takes resources. All right, because these generative masks are using the cloud service. All right, so it's sending the information up to Adobe's computer. Their computer is building the mask. It's analyzing. It's looking for the subject. Okay, it's building the mask and then sending it back down. All right, so all of that takes a little bit of time. All of that takes resources, obviously, okay? So now what happens is where previously, yeah, it would take you 15 minutes to go through and figure out which preset you want. Now it's going to take you an hour, all right? Why? Because you have to wait longer as it builds that preview, okay? Now here's the problem. Our eyes tend to get accustomed to what it's looking at very, very quickly. All right, this is why it's often suggested that as you are editing, all right, if you're starting to get to the point where everything's starting to look like the same and you're wondering, did I, is my image being edited properly? They suggest stepping away, go do something else for 10, 15 minutes, step outside, get some fresh air, go into a different room that's differently lit, then come back and you're going to see your image with a fresh set of eyes. All right. Well, that problem is going to get amplified here because if the changes are subtle, all right, like in some of these presets, okay, and because it takes time for the preset to take effect, if that preset is not radically different than your original, it becomes difficult to see. All right. With the previous one, it was easy enough. All we did is we hover over it, we go off of it, we hover back, we go off, hover back, go off, and we can see that effect very quickly. Okay? Can't do that with the adaptive ones. All right? Here, 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 here. What's it doing? Oh, I can see something happening in the eyes. That's pretty much all I see. All right? But it's enhancing something. All right? How about the glamour one? Oh, that one. Yeah, that one I'm seeing more of a change. Okay? But now, all right, because I've already previewed it a couple of times, it's now kind of in memory here. All right. Oh, we're starting to slow down my machine again. All right. So it's brightening up the eyes, it's whitening the teeth, it's softening the skin. Okay. So it becomes more difficult to see what these things do. Okay. So at this point, I would say, obviously, take your time, play with them, see what they do. All right. And then if you find one that you really like, tear it apart, analyze it, modify it to how you edit. Okay. And then resave it as your own preset. Okay. But the nice thing is, because these are using, let's see, we'll apply this. Okay. Look at all the masks that it applied. Okay. So because it's a portrait mask, it applied all of these masks. It made changes to all of these. And now when we close it out, we can see that it really didn't do anything here. It did not modify anything. As a matter of fact, we still have the texture from the previous one. All right. And we have our color mixer. All right. So obviously that one, the polished portrait, does something with the red channel. All right. We desaturate it a little bit. Okay. All right. So now you can say, okay, what I want to do is I want to modify this. So instead of, I like what it does with the masks. Okay. But I see that it made some changes with the global settings. Can I take that little part of the global setting and apply it to one of the masks in order to get rid of that global setting? Why? Because if I have another preset, I don't have to worry about those global settings affecting the portrait. Make sense? All right. So yeah, you got to do a little bit of hunt and seek, a little bit, of undercover work, a little bit of, lifting the hood and getting the monkey wrench into the workings of the preset. But once you understand it, once you know what it's for, when to use it, it becomes part of your normal workflow and it'll help you speed up. Okay. So, all right. So that's the Adobe Portrait ones. Okay. We also have the Adaptive Sky, which, as you can tell, what does that do? Very simple. Anything that has a sky, it's going to recognize that it's a sky. It's going to build a preset, or I'm sorry, it's going to build a mask based on that sky selection. Excuse me. And then it's going to apply that setting. Okay. Sunset, not much of a sunset. Sunrise, sunset. All right. I would like to see some color change in that. That to me does not look like sunset unless it's something that you're supposed to apply to a sunset. Who knows? Storm clouds. I kind of like the storm clouds. Brings out the texture a little bit more. Neon tropics. It just turns the sky green, doesn't it? Dark drama. Oh, nice. I like that one. And then blue drama, just all right. So we look at this, and what did it do? It added stuff to the detail panel. And oh, my lens correction that was applied. But here it is, just a sky selection. All right. And it brought my highlights down. It brought the black point down. And it added clarity and dehaze. There it is. That's all it does. Okay. That one I love. It's clear. It does what it's supposed to do without really doing anything else to the rest of these settings. All right. And it's named properly. Holy cow. All right. It's not AS01, Adaptive Sky 01 or 02. Okay. It does exactly what it says. Adds drama to the sky and darkens it. Okay. All right. We kind of did a little bit about subject, okay? Subject pop. This is one that I would use all the time, okay? As a matter of fact, I didn't even know that was in there, but that's one of the things that I do for my own images. And that's exactly what I call it. It makes it pop forward. Okay. All right. Warm pop. Let's see. It probably applies a warm tone. Yep. Look at that. Warm tone. Soft probably just does a softened skin tone type thing. Yep. Cool soft. Yep. Cools it off. Oh, I kind of like that. Vibrant. Kind of a little bit too much saturation. And glow. No, that looks a little too washed out. Okay. So look them over, get used to them. All right. And let's see. And then finally, the one that was just added is based on the, whatchamacallit, the blur background tool that was just introduced. Okay. And this is brand new. I haven't even played with it. It loaded in, earlier today when I did an update. All right. So I have no idea. Okay. But let's figure
Duck,
out. Yep.
I think this is on my Facebook feed, and I tried it out on my Lightroom on my phone. They've been talking about this one a lot. I may have even seen it on TV. The background blur,
Mm-hmm.
and there is some generative remove
Oh,
functionality.
yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Uh,
Yeah, I
so
have
this would
seen.
be the classic version of those same.
Correct. Correct. Apple has had the background blur for a while for their
Mhm.
iPhones. So this technology is not new. It's been around for, a year and a half or so. All right, maybe even a little longer. Okay. It's just now being rolled into Adobe products, based on their AI models, but because the background blur is a fairly new tool that just recently came out of beta. It's still being developed. They're still, tweaking it. They're still adding new functionality to it, but at least they've rolled out some presets for it now. So that tells me that the the tool, the way it is now, is pretty much settled upon. Okay. If they're able to build presets for it, means that they're not going to do more than like maybe cosmetic changes and maybe some background changes to the, selection engine and the blur engine and things like that. But the interface, this leads me to believe the interface is pretty much set. Okay. So we can do a subtle blur to the background, a strong blur to the background. Obviously, you know, I see a little bit. Circular, uh, the circular blur. Let me get out of this thing here and go to lens blur.
Duck,
Yeah.
I knew on the phone I was playing with this on my Android. Uh, there's a slider to give you how much blur you
Yeah.
wanted. And I couldn't figure out or didn't see any change between circle, bubble, geometric, ring, or swirl.
Right. No, you're not going to see it until you get actual points of light.
Ah,
All right. Because what they're doing with that is they're replicating the bokeh based on different types of lenses. All right. So if you've ever used one of those what are they called? The mirror telephotos. There's a name for them. They have the internal mirror. All right, telephoto lenses. They're typically set to a very specific f-stop, usually about f8. So it's not like you could change the f-stop on those. All right, and they're usually a fixed focal length. Like 400, 800, 1,000. Right, but they're pretty compact telephotos that are fairly fat. And then if you look at it, there's a little mirror in the center of it. Okay, that mirror gives a very distinct donut-shaped bokeh to all light points. So anything that generates a point of light, whether it's light from a light bulb in a night scene, light coming through the speckling of leaves, the small little openings between the leaves that make these little points of light, all of those will have a very distinct shape. Okay, uh, lenses that have like 6 aperture blades instead of 9 or 7 or 9, for example, will have a very star shape or will have very defined flat edges to their bokeh, right? And that's where you get these here. Okay, this one here is for that mirror telephoto lens. And then a variety of others. Ones that have like bokeh that have like a very defined halo around it. The football shaped ones, right? All kinds of crazy stuff. Okay, that's what that is for. You only see it when you have very distinct points of light in your image. Okay? All right. So now and here they basically have three based on the shape. All right. So they take the shape and they build presets. So you have a circle one, you have a bubble one. All right. That's all these. The ring, the swirl. All right. And then of course, a subtle background blur or a strong background blur. And then they actually did this right. You can reset the blur, which is great. And it's a great habit if you have very complex presets. No, they don't even have to be complex. If you have a preset that does one specific thing, you might want to build a preset that removes that one specific thing. That way, one, you don't have to go hunting for what it is that it changed. And two, it avoids having to hit that reset button over there. You don't want to hit the reset because that wipes everything out. Okay. So if you're, 5, 6, 8, 12 steps into your workflow and you go, oh, yeah, I changed my mind about that one little thing, you can say, oh, that was that preset. I can just go back and hit, reset. It'll remove it. Okay. So that's a good thing to have. And I'm glad to see that actually built into something that Adobe has put into their program. All right. So that's pretty much a rundown of all of them, an understanding of how they're built and, why you would want to use them. And it's going to be up to you to determine when you want to use them. Okay. So any questions about anything we covered? I know I kind of left it very open because unfortunately it's a very open topic. Any questions?
No.
All right. So I will let you guys just experiment. All right. And I'm going to experiment with this sky. We're going to add that. I like that dark drama. Look at that. Oh, that's so nice. Let's look at that.
Doc, I couldn't find my unmute button.
Before, after.
I had one last question.
Space button will temporarily unmute you. Go ahead.
And now I forget. So this, because I have been playing with this on the phone, and I guess this is my question. So since on the phone, where it's connecting with Lightroom server somewhere to manage this?
Oh, yes.
So I guess I'm getting this because on my phone because I subscribe to the other service.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you are part of the photography plan, it comes with Lightroom Mobile as part of that plan. But you got to realize your phone does not have the full capabilities of your desktop. It doesn't have that kind of processing power. Yes,
I understand.
They're better than ever, but and that's why you'll notice that the mobile version is a very lightweight version. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles, all right? But it also depends very heavily on sending information up to Adobe, letting their machines do the heavy duty work, and then being back the results.
Well, I like playing with it, like Bill was saying at the beginning of the show, that sometimes you got your smartphone with you and you got the pictures, and let's see what I can do with them. And what I do is, if it looks like it's worthwhile of further research, I'll upload it to the computer. But
right.
I was just playing around with it, late at night with this background stuff, and like I said, I was rather impressed with how it worked.
Yeah. Just remember, your image resides in the cloud.
Oh, okay. The one that I let you play with on the phone?
Through your phone, it resides in the cloud. It's in your cloud account.
Oh, really?
So if you synchronize your desktop to your cloud account, you'll be able to get the edits from the cloud downloaded to your desktop as well.
As well as run out of space quick.
As well as run out of space very quick.
Space where, on your computer or in the cloud?
In the cloud.
Cloud.
Okay.
Yeah,
so this is new
megabytes.
Stuff, so I don't think I'm hooked up to the cloud.
Oh yeah, you
or
are.
Is it doing automatically with my
are.
account?
If you go through your phone, it's there. It's there.
But this is a whole other thing. So I can access, I know the stuff I do on my phone on Lightroom. So can you're saying I can access that cloud from my computer?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's all integrated. Tablet, mobile, cell phone, desktop, they all have access to the cloud account.
And then once you max out at 20 gigabytes, They'll ask you for more money, for more space.
Right. I know that plan.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so can Lightroom Classic connect to the cloud?
Yes.
Or just Lightroom on the
No,
computer?
as a matter of fact, if you look right up here, there's my cloud connection right there in the upper right corner.
I'll
Right,
be
like-
in.
All right, there's my cloud storage. I don't use it for squat. Linking. I don't want to link. No. I don't want to link. There we go. Okay. I don't like using the cloud. I like having my images here on planet Earth with me.
Well, like I said, I'm interested in the stuff that I take with my phone when I'm out and about, and if I have still always looking at ways to get it back to the computer, or
Yeah.
because I really don't like working with Lightroom on the computer. Not, the difference between Lightroom and Lightroom Classic.
Oh, right.
It comes on it, and it's
Yeah. Well,
it's worse than the phone.
yeah. That's, I'm a little prejudiced. I learned with Lightroom Classic. That was when it was just Lightroom. That's Lightroom Classic. When they started rolling out with the mobile versions, it's like, for me, it's cumbersome. You're stripping away a lot of functionality. You're slowing down things a lot. And it was very disruptive to my workflow, so I never gave it a second thought. I have no use for it. My clients don't have a use for it. So I don't bother learning it. I understand it. I know some about it, but it's not like I can walk you through step by step. If it's something you guys want to learn, by all means, I'll learn it to teach it to you guys. But, I don't know. I just look at it as stripped down, watered down model of Lightroom Classic.
I never use it on the computer. Like I was just saying, a couple
Yeah.
times I've clicked on it by mistake, and
Yeah.
or I tried to use it to see if it would talk to the cloud or something, but no thanks.
Yep. Yep. If you have a reason to use it, if there's a need, by all means use it. Like I said, me personally, I've never found that need. All right. So that doesn't mean there isn't. Okay. So don't let my prejudice stop you from exploring it. All right. Any other questions?
No.
That's it.
I have one more thing, Doc. It's not a question, and we'll see how this comes into play. But I was down to Milford Photo today. I just picked up about $100 worth of scanned negatives from the 70s.
Oh, nice.
So the next phase of my photo restorations begin.
Oh, you got your work cut out for you.
So what's that?
You got your work cut out for you then.
Yes.
Cool.
And a big shout out to that fella down there, Goyo. Is that his name? He runs the print area down in Milford Photo, I think.
Yeah.
Goyo, yeah. I just said, here, handle it.
Yeah.
And he did with a deft and aplomb. So
Cool.
yeah, I got some work to do.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, it was nice hanging out with you. If there are no further questions, we can wrap it up. Next week is Lightroom. No, next week is Photoshop. Haven't figured out what I'm going to do, but if anybody's got any suggestions, feel free. If anything that we've covered in the past you want a refresher on, let me know. Okay. One thing that I would like to do is we've done it a couple times. That was always a lot of fun for me. I don't know if it was helpful for you, is where you guys will submit an image that you're having a hard time editing, and you say, hey, what would you do to this particular image? So if you want to do that, I'm more than game to do it as well. Okay. I just need access to your raw file. That's all. Okay. All right, guys. Once again, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you, Doc.
It was a lot of fun, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night,
All
Doug.
right.
Thanks,
Have a
Mike.
happy 4th.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Actually, I'm staying away from downtown because it's going to be like crazy. I'm not going to be around. All right. Stay safe.
Bye.
Thank you for watching Learning Photography with Duck. Brought to you in association with Milford Photo, your local full-service camera store. Located in downtown Milford, Connecticut, Milford Photo offers you a personalized shopping experience. From the latest camera gear to printing and framing services. And, of course, educational workshops to teach you the finer aspects of photography. Don't forget to tell them Duck sent you.